All right, folks, welcome to another XenTegra Webinar Wednesdays. For those who are returning, welcome back. For those who are new, you're in for a treat, and hopefully you come back next week. We got a great vendor this week. We got Runecast. My first time, believe it or not, seeing this vendor in demo today, so I'm kind of excited, and I might even have some cool questions to ask. So get ready, folks. So we're going to be talking about how to proactively monitor and automate and secure your VMware architecture. And this is a great tool, by the way. If you haven't seen this, definitely hang tight and get ready for a great demo. My name is Pete Downing. I'm your host and the CMTO of XenTegra. And on the phone today, I have Paul and Wade. So Paul, if you want to give yourself a quick introduction.
I certainly can do, yeah. So Paul Donicke here. I'm sales manager for Runecast for the Americas, the partner side, and also for the UK. And thank you very much, Pete, for having us. And yeah, very happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome, man. And Wade, you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Yeah, you bet. My name is Wade Carlson. I live in the United States in the state of Idaho. I'm a pre-sales engineer for Runecast Solutions. I've been with the company for about a year. Prior to that, I was a long-term Hewlett-Packard employee with 20 plus years of service to that company. So happy to be here and happy to present our product to you folks, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, so thanks for joining us today, Wade, as well. All right, so just quick housekeeping for those who are returning. You already know the drill, but for those who are new, we got the Q&A dialogue. We encourage question and answer, so please put your questions in the question and answer dialogue box. The great thing about it is, guess what? Those questions are recorded, so we always have a record if we have to go back and look at some of the questions or we didn't get to answer your question. So please definitely ask questions today. And other than that, we're on GoToWebinar. It's pretty easy to use. All right, so let's talk through really quick. The flow is very simple, as we all know. We're just going to do a quick introduction. I'll do some polls. I'm going to hand over the mic to Runecast and let them do their thing, and then we'll close out and call it the day. If you're not already doing so, please bookmark XenTegra.com/webinars. We run these webinars every week, 11 o'clock. Sometimes I do a double header. We got great vendors coming up. We are booked all the way until the end of September with vendors, so excited. And also in Q3, we are doing what's called the Team Launch Giveaway. So for every webinar you join, you get credits towards Grubhub every month up to $50. If you join all 4 in a month, you get extra credits. And if you join every webinar in Q3, you get even more credits. So the goal is, hey, gain as many credits as you can. You can get up to $250 in Grubhub credits and be in the running to win lunch for your whole team. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Finally, XenTegra.com, we got a lot of great events. We do everything from VMware workshops to Citrix Cloud workshops to WVD workshops. So yeah, definitely check that out. Unfortunately, tomorrow's NetScaler ADC workshop is completely filled. All right, that one's popular, so you definitely want to sign up if you want to learn about NetScaler, aka Citrix ADC. And then finally, podcasts. We do podcasts on a weekly basis. I'm actually working on publishing the podcast from this week that Andy, our CEO, does. He does a weekly podcast called the Citrix Session. We're actually looking at doing another one called focused on just VMware. So keep an eye out for the podcast. All right, let's talk about some polls. A couple fun little polls today that I have going on. The first one's an easy poll. This is just to understand who owns what. So what is your primary hypervisor within your enterprise? And we can probably guess what the answer is going to be, but hey, I like to put the polls out there to get the data. So we'll let folks take a quick couple seconds to answer these polls. And again, as you're answering them, these are anonymous. Others can't see your answers. And the only thing we get is a lot of cool data. So we'll give a couple more seconds to let you guys answer, guys and gals. And last call for clicks. So going once, going twice, and then final call. And we are going to close this and share it out. So we got a lot of cool responses here. We always expect that VMware is going to be in the lead, and that's our focus for today. But I asked this to help the vendor as well understand what the makeup is across the enterprise and industry. We got a lot of Hyper-V, which I expect, a little bit of Citrix Xen Server. The great thing about that is they are actually still developing it, and it's a great product. So if you haven't checked that out lately, definitely give it at least a little check. it's worth it. And then we got some others. And so I'm curious to see what you're running there. If you're other, I could probably take some guesses, but, don't want to misrepresent it. So, all right, let's talk through your infrastructure as a service. This also plays in the Runecast as well. So which infrastructure as a service are you primarily using and or evaluating? All right. And again, this is more for data snippets, but also Runecast has integration with AWS as well. So we might cover that a little bit as well today. So we'll let this answer out for a couple more seconds. We could probably guess who the leader is going to be, but you never know. And I'm going to say last call for clicks. So going once, going twice, and last call. All right, so we knew Microsoft was going to be kind of the leader, but Amazon's actually a close second this time around. But it's funny. Those are the top two, obviously, in the industry right now. GCP is gaining some ground. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next year to 2 years with Google. I have a feeling Google and Microsoft are going to start working a little tighter. That's just my guess. And then we got some no's and others. So great stats here. All right, let's talk about security. All right, and we're going to talk about your VMware environment. So if you're not a VMware shop, then obviously don't answer. But my enterprise, your VMware environment would pass a security check today. And answer is honestly as possible. All right, and again, we're just looking for data, and there's a reason why I'm asking this question. So, and if you think it's going to pass, we might prove you wrong. I'll actually I'd put $1 down for everybody that says yes. I bet you Runecast will find a flaw in your environment. And maybe I'm a little bold there, Paul, but I bet you that you guys could find something.
I'll take that bet.
Yeah. All right, so give it a couple more seconds. Last call for clicks. Going once, going twice, and last call. And the data here is very interesting. So I would say the known unknowns outweigh the yeses, and Runecast can help you figure this out. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So that's why I asked this question. So you definitely want to stay tuned and find out how Runecast will help you learn how secure your VMware environment truly is. And I guarantee you, for 39% of those folks that answered yes, Paul and I will put down $1 that will find a flaw in your environment. All right, and then final question, this is more of a data snippet for myself. I always ask this question: are you running Office 365, and if so, how? Are you doing the hybrid premise on-prem approach? Are you fully online? Are you currently in the process of deploying? No, it's not. It's on the radar. You're on-prem for right now, or hey, we're a Google Cloud Enterprise customer. And I usually get one, and there we go. There's our one, maybe two. We'll give this a couple more seconds. And again, this is just for me from a data snippet point of view. And Runecast, Paul, I don't know if you guys have any tie into Office 365, but maybe you do. Maybe I'll learn something today.
I'm afraid not, but with Azure coming, then we might have soon.
Yeah. All right, last call for clicks. Going once, going twice, and final call, and close. So, as I expect, online is making a big push. And the only reason why I asked this question is twofold. One, as you start looking at your cloud strategy, it does matter. And there's this thing called a mailbox that's pesky. If you don't know what Fast Track is, reach out. We can educate you on what is Fast Track, how does it work, and how we can help you migrate efficiently to Office 365. All right, so that's our fun polls for the day. We got a lot of great data, and we're going to answer some of those questions as we go through the day today. All right, so if you're not following Runecast or XenTegra on social media, please do. We put a lot of great information up on our social pages, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. By the way, this webinar does get recorded. It does get posted eventually to our YouTube channel. So if you head over to XenTegra's YouTube channel, you'll see a whole archive of webinars that I've done in the past, and that list is constantly growing. All right, so today we are going to focus on Runecast and how we can proactively monitor, automate, and secure your VMware architecture. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Paul, and he's going to give us a little history on what is Runecast, how it came to be, and then Wade is going to jump into a demo and give us the insight of how it works and why you guys should care.
So I am. Hello, everybody, and yeah, you guys should all be able to see my screen now. So thank you again for coming. we have Wade on the call, who is our technical magician. So it'll be relatively short on this presentation to give him a chance to show you what's under the hood, as it were. But just a bit of a background on where Runecast came from. So our overarching ethos is less time troubleshooting and more time spent innovating. We firmly believe that engineers shouldn't be spending time doing manual tasks, things like checking KBs, Googling how to fix issues, manually checking compliance when security asks you to do so. This should be automated, and you should have as much time as possible available to work on projects and tasks which bring a lot of value to your business. Where the business came from, I'm sat currently in the Czech Republic in Prague, and in 2014, these gentlemen were working for IBM. So any IBM customer across all of EMEA who was using their VMware services ultimately rolled up to these chaps. In 2014, they had a significant outage with a logistics company in the United Kingdom. And as I'm sure you can imagine, 48 hours of downtime for IBM. There was a bit of an inquest as to why did this happen and how can we stop it from happening again. They had to use huge amounts of resources to go and manually check configurations across every single IBM customer in Europe. In the course of doing so, they realized that 90% of all the issues that they were having to check against and having to guard against had already been documented somewhere within an external source of data, whether the VMware KBs, a best practice guideline, a blog post from somebody, or in a security hardening guide. But what didn't exist until Runecast came onto the market, and what still doesn't exist apart from Runecast, is a tool which can use AI and machine learning to interact nice and neatly with all that external data, package it up, and put it in your hands to make sure that your environment is no longer a minefield, that your VMware infrastructure is stable, is predictable, and is being run as efficiently as possible. Typically, we deliver a 75% reduction in time spent troubleshooting in VMware environments. So just think, for your own operation, if we could give you back that time that you spend trawling through knowledge base articles, trawling through unreadable logs, having to check compliance standards, what could you do for your business and how could you improve your business? We guard against configuration drift, and we ensure that the increasing complexity of your systems doesn't mean that you get lost in management. You can still take a strategic overview, you can still very easily report on the health of your infrastructure, and you're not going to be blindsided one day where you think everything is fine, but underneath the iceberg, there's a potentially service affecting issue just bubbling under the surface. Runecast will expose that and will allow you to remediate that before it affects your service. So we cover all of the VMware, major VMware products, so vSphere, vSAN, NSX, and Horizon. Obviously, Horizon is a big talking point this year, so if you've spun up a new Horizon environment, then definitely get us on board for a health check. With vSphere 7 around the corner and vSphere 6 now end of support, we can also help you to simulate the upgrade process, no more having to manually check the HCL, and we provide real-time analysis against logs and configurations. So ultimately, we're looking to automate as much as possible. Most of you on this call, in fact, all of you on this call most likely, are going to be very highly skilled engineers and very highly skilled technicians. There's absolutely no reason and no justification for you to be having to waste time on manual tasks. We're going to reduce outages, and ultimately, the bottom line is we're going to reduce costs for your business and make sure that resources can be allocated more effectively. And if this will now, oh, 1 second. Here we go. So this is an overview of a few of the customers that we use, and you can see some of the testimonials on the side. Crucially here, a chap from PricewaterhouseCoopers, obviously an absolutely ginormous financial services business globally. It's like having a VMware technician auditing your environment 24/7. We did try and do a bit of an exercise for marketing purposes and put the value of Runecast in terms of human hours. We reached around 30,000 before we decided to give up because no one would believe us. So it's absolutely powerful. It's as if you've got a vExpert, a vCAP, and a vCDX all bundled into one appliance just sat on your system, continually making sure that you are in compliance, that your infrastructure is in a healthy state and not at risk of downtime. We have several large customers in the US, but primarily in the government space. So I haven't put their logos here because they haven't given us permission to do so. But we work very well in that case, in that space, because we're unique in that we can work fully offline. Just to pull a couple of these customers out, obviously PricewaterhouseCoopers. Notino is the largest e-commerce platform in Europe for cosmetics and perfume. They save roughly $90,000 per year in man hours by using Runecast. And that's without considering the potential loss if their systems were to go down. Of course, you may have heard of the National Health Service. It's the health service for the entire United Kingdom. We're used extensively across the NHS in order to underpin compliance and make sure operations are smooth and stable. And of course, a big hitter in the US, Chevron, have a number of disparate global sites, and they're able to use Runecast to manage them from a single pane of glass and not have to worry about sending people out to remote data centers in Brazil or whatever it might be. So really, we're looking to give you time back and make your operation as efficiently as it possibly can be and as efficient as it deserves to be. And with that, if you want to see the good stuff, then Wade is on the line. I'm sure he'll be happy to show you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, Wade, you should be the presenter now. And again, if there's any questions at all, please put them in the Q&A dialogue. I am paying attention to that. So as you guys ask questions, we can throw them in towards Wade and Paul, and we can make sure we get your questions answered. So please ask questions if you see something you want to know about more.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. So I always like to provide a little precursor around the installation of Runecast Analyzer. So Runecast Analyzer is an appliance, a virtual appliance that runs and is installed on your on-prem VMware environment. It's very lightweight in practice and function, and it's fully self-contained. So there are no external components that need to be configured or installed. So it's about a 5 to 10 minute installation process. During the installation process, you will target your management system, your vCenter server. Those are two base requirements: that it's installed on-prem and your VMware environment's being managed by vCenter. Once that occurs, then you will ultimately get your analyzer built on your virtual machine. And what I'm showing here is the web client for it. So I'm pointing it to my local analyzer, and at that point, you're up and running. You would come in here, click your Analyze Now button, and within minutes, you will have data populated in this framework. So it's really that fast. So it's not something that you run and let run for hours or days on end to gather your information and data. There are no agents that get pushed out. It's very lightweight in IO. It's very, like I say, it's self-contained. No data leaves this appliance once any data is gathered. Essentially, the analytics and the engine behind the scenes is interrogating your vCenter database for the configuration data. We build in all of VMware's knowledge repository, meaning the KB articles that they document, the best practices, the security guidelines that they have, and so on and so forth. So it's all pre-built. It's built in. After your first scan, a lot of this data is cached. So subsequent scans after the fact are very fast. So the point being is this is a very easy tool to install, configure, and almost immediately get data for your environment. You are able to set up automatic scans, hourly, daily, weekly. We do have a knowledge definition database that does periodically get updated. We update twice a month. Unless there's a critical issue identified in the industry, then we will drop everything and our developers will push out usually within a 24-hour period. Say there's some major huge security breach or something of that nature that's discovered in the industry or in overall environment, we'll push those out and we'll have them within about a 24-hour period of time, and people will be able to scan against those. So with that, all that being said, there are three main sections of Runecast within the product itself. You have the main menu, you have the configuration analysis and log analysis. Within the main menu is three different versions and ways to view the data that's gathered. We have a dashboard view, which I'm showing now. We have an inventory view and an all issues view. I'll get to the main menu and how the data is presented after I go through kind of the inner workings and what's happening behind the scenes via the configuration analysis and log analysis. So that's where the main menu and the data will make more sense once I go through some of these sections. So what I'll do is I'll just jump down to the configuration analysis. Again, this is running in our local environment. Analysis is, we've done several analyzing or analysis of our environment. So obviously the data is populated, but the first section's KBs. And this is the entire VMware repository of documentation. So there are different products out there that will perform certain subsets of the documentation, maybe like 20, 30% of the repository. We pull in and analyze and check against all of them. So the average number of checks that are performed in an environment via a scan within Runecast is about 33,000 checks. Our average these days is 33,000 checks. So once you click that Analyze Now button, there's 33,000 checks among these different categories that are being performed in the environment. So with the results, what are we looking at? Within the Results tab, if I'm in KBs, each of these different areas and screens are going to look very similar in nature. We're always going to give you your results based on severity, okay? Critical, major, medium, and low. In each of these boxes up above, you can click and sort on what you might want to look at. If you want to hone in on only your criticals, only hone in on what it applies to, and things of that nature. If you want to just look at vCenter, network management, compute, what it affects, we give you the option to, there's a little lag in my system here. What it affects. So if you want to just look at security, performance, recoverability, things of that nature, or if you want to sort on product, if you're currently having an issue with vSphere or just want to look at the data regarding your vSphere or your vSAN or your NSXV or Horizon, you can do that as well. We always give you in each of these areas and Windows sections, we give you an export function where you can export and kick out a report. We give you the ability to copy it to your clipboard, paste it into your favorite application, or create a report via CSV file or PDF. We have an option here to include affected objects, etc. So, if I open one of these, just at a high level, we're going to give you, the high level details, the severity, what it applies to, effects, products, how many objects are affected by this particular KB, and then we're going to give you a title, just a high level of what this KB is related to and how your underlying configuration is vulnerable to this KB. The orange dog ear up here in the upper left shows you that there's a note applied to this, which I'll get to here in a moment. So if you open it, you can select the Details tab, which we will give you all of the details from the KB article. So we'll give you a high level, we'll give you a resolution. We show you what symptoms you are experiencing or will experience. We show you also the cause of this issue and the workaround. So what I always love to say is Runecast not only pinpoints and shows you the issue in your environment, we give you the resolution to it as well. So it's not like a log file that has a cryptic message that you have to copy and paste and go Google search and spend hours on trying to figure out what the resolution is. We provide it for you. You don't have to do any of that. But we do give you links directly to VMware's knowledge base article, the article itself that's being represented, reference links as well. We do have an ignore button. If for whatever reason you validated that this is, it certainly is not causing a problem in your environment, you don't want to change this configuration or take action, you can ignore it, which just creates a filter. Filters are never permanently gone. You can go into settings and re-enable that. Check if you wish in the future. Under the Findings tab, this is kind of the real power with what we're providing and our analysis is performing, is it shows you all of the objects within your environment that have this vulnerability or risk associated with it related to this KB. So we're going to give you a list of affected objects. Here you can see I have 3 different host servers in my environment that are susceptible to this purple screen. This one happens to be a purple screen risk, running my environment that's running 6.7 ESXi. Under automatic checks, this is what actions are being performed to validate that this is this is a valid configuration, underlying configuration issue in your environment. So what I usually say about this is we don't provide false positives. If this configuration exists in your environment, it's documented by VMware that you're going to have an issue. You may not be experiencing it today, but you will in the future. So these are the checks that are performed to validate that this is true. So it's not just the host version on this host or the build number, but it's also those two combined with how your VM NICs are configured. Okay, so all those checks combined make up that KB related to your configuration in your environment. Again, we provide a notes section. This is just a free form field. You can put it whatever text you want in here. You know, a lot of people like to use this as, okay, we've identified this issue. We're going to resolve it via change ticket next Thursday. You can put that note in here. The orange dog here, like I said, indicates that you have a note associated with that issue. If you just hover over it, you don't even have to open this up and see what the note says. Okay. Again, you have an ignore button, filter it out. Next section, so that's KBs. Next section is best practices. So much like the KBs, very similar look and feel, sort capabilities, reporting functionality. With best practices, it's a pass or fail type of scenario. So you're either complying against VMware's recommendations on how to configure your environment, or you're not. And we all know that, you know, most environments are custom, somewhat unique. This is generally the area where most of our clients make use of the filter option and the ignore button, because they're aware. This prime example, SSH is enabled. We're failing this. The best practice and recommendation is to disable it, but we may have a business need to use it. So I'm seeing it. I don't want to see it anymore. I click ignore. I don't have to see that anymore, and I have a filter for it. But like the KB section, we'll give you the same type of high-level detail. We'll give you the objects that are affected by this and where SSH is enabled in my environment. And again, the notes section for anything you might want to add in there. So, you know, not everything's bad in our environment. If I scroll through and look through history, you know, I do have, you know, my critical, major, mediums, low. Eventually I start passing things. So that's another validation check to see not only where you're failing against best practices, but also where you're passing. So again, your generate a report, not all is bad. Some things are good and that type of thing. So you can use the reporting function however you see fit, toward, you know, targeted at the audience you want to present to. Next section, security compliance. And, you know, really this is becoming more and more a driver for people purchasing our product, simply for the security compliance checks. If I open it up, you can see all of the industry standard frameworks and guides and standards that we have built into the product. In the very beginning, we only had VMware hardening guidelines in here. We've been adding as time goes on, and as our customers request from us, they have certain security standards within their business they have to comply to. So we have implemented things like DISA STIG. That's, you know, for those that don't know, Department of Defense, United States, one of the most stringent government controls that are out there for security. We have PCI DSS, payment card industry. We've added HIPAA for healthcare. BSI IT Grundschutz is a European government standard. It's very closely, the framework of it is very closely tied and generated from ISO standards, okay? We also have implemented recently CIS, Center for Internet Security, and NIST. So on our immediate roadmap, we will be adding ISO 20007 upcoming. So we had another request from a larger client that needs to be ISO compliant. So we've been adding as people request. In here, again, each of these standards, the look and feel within the product is going to be the same. We're going to give you the severity level, pass, fail, how you're stacking up against the standards and the controls of that standard, etc. Each of these are, you know, they're not VMware, obviously. They're third-party security organizations. So each one is going to have a little bit of functionality to it within the product. And we just pulled in their frameworks, and we've made sure our product covers the entire framework. So as an example, I like to highlight PCI DSS as an example. So I was just showing DISA. I'll highlight PCI DSS, fails, eventually I start passing. But PCI has, as an example, milestones. DISA stick doesn't have milestones. We try to cover all of the milestones for PCI that's applicable to vSphere, right, to VMware and what we're scanning against. They have a little bit different results. It's not pass-fail, it's fail or configured. But PCI is right now one of the only security controls that gives you some customizable control checks. I can highlight that in here, and I can change the values of these standards that I'm checking against that might be customized to my environment. So you can change those to better fit your environment if you want to check certain aspects of the environment. So that's one, some of the differences between PCI. CIS is a little bit different in nature as well. CIS has different standards for different versions of ESXi. So you'll get a drop down. You can hone in and filter on the version of ESXi. As you can see down below, we do provide security checks for AWS for CIS. I'll get to AWS and what we cover for it here in a moment. But just to give you an example, results are a little bit different for CIS: fail, pass, pass, manual, or manual. Essentially how those controls are manipulated, whether it's a manual check versus not. So a little bit different. Again, if I run and scan this in my environment, I can kick out a report just on this this check and where I stack up against CIS. We do have these 7 standards in the settings. You can go in and enable or disable any of these. Okay, so most people don't want to try to comply against 7 different industry standard security checks. Could you imagine? And this is where we were, talking in the intro about Runecast Analyzer being able to find something in your environment where you're going to fail. If you can imagine, if you enable all these checks, perform all these checks in your environment, there's likelihood is 99.9% we're going to find something in there that's not complying against one of these standards. So that's kind of what we were referring to in the beginning. NIST.
So I'll ask you a question around this.
Yes.
Try to questions going. So if I'm just a regular old shop, do I just stick to the VM guidelines, or what's your best recommendation here? Do I look at NIST? Do I look at CIS?
Yeah,
I want to be the most secure, but I don't really care about HIPAA or PCI. What do you guys typically recommend to use?
I always recommend, because to run our product, you have to be running VMware. So VMware hardening guidelines. And if your environment or your virtual machines are connected to the internet, CIS, right? Center for Internet Security. Those are the base frameworks that I recommend. I think anybody running those scenarios should run those too. And then you go from there. What industry are you in? Do you handle credit card transactions? Add PCI? Are you in healthcare, HIPAA, and those types of things? So you can take it from there. If you're government, you have a choice at DISA, NIST, the ISOs are coming. But again, I'll show real quick how easy it is in here to add or delete these frameworks. You click to update, check and uncheck. If I do that, click up.
So you can only have the ones there that you want. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can do any mix of what you want. What's fun is trying to enable all of them and running a security check. You'll spend days chasing your tail. That's just a fun thing. I don't recommend, you can do that, but you'll likely never pass anything. I say that tongue in cheek, that's somewhat of a joke. But that's security. Again, this in the next section, hardware compatibility, have been really huge drivers for our new customers coming on board looking at Runecast. We have people purchasing the product simply for the security and the array of frameworks that we have built into the product, and our ease in adding new standards. So like I say, we're getting new customers recently asking for NIST, asking for CIS. Within the last 3 months, we've added both. So we're very flexible. And if it makes sense, right, for everybody, then it'll be implemented into the product. But with that being said, you can look at the standards that we have in the product, and each of those standards combined should cover just about any IT security check there is. You know, I mean, I can say that with fairly high level of confidence that, you know, if you go through those, enabled all of them, there probably isn't anything that's not captured in one of those standards that needs to be checked against, right? So it's pretty thorough in what we have today. But again, we like to please our customers and ensure that we have what they need for their business. Hardware compatibility is another area where people love this part of the product, purchasing the product just for this functionality, etc. So what we're doing here is we're scanning your entire hardware stack and checking how your configuration in your environment compares to VMware's HCL. Okay, so what I'm showing here is how my hardware is looking regarding the version of ESXi I'm currently running. If you see in here, you can tell by the naming standards, we have on purpose a mixed mode environment, which from my experience and years of being a VM sysadmin, this is highly common of people running mixed mode environments. You're gonna have mixed hardware or generation of hardware. You're gonna have mixed versions of ESXi in the environment. It's tough to do upgrades because you know, normally will incur downtime. There's hardware to order or change and those types of things. It's usually a month, you know, months and months of planning and exercising and getting prepared. And then ultimately you hope everything's successful and no issues afterwards. But what you can do with Runecast is check how you're stacking up against the current version that you're running. And you know, the scan's been completed. I'm showing my results here. And I'll open one up. So, you know, what we're doing is we're not only checking the server platform itself, we're checking all of the cards and IO devices that are installed within it. And we're not just checking, you know, again, you know, like the CPU models, the memory, and those types of things, the high level, but we're digging down into the BIOS levels, the firmware versions, the drivers, and the intercompatibility between those things. So the drivers and firmware together need to be compatible, or we're going to flag it in here based on the HCL that VMware populates and publishes. So as an example in here, on this particular server, I have a Dell PowerEdge. I have a BIOS that's out of date, okay? And this one, you know, there's different versions and different wording. This is not found in HCL. I'll get to a point that a recent feature we've added here in a moment. But ultimately, we're going to show you the BIOS that you're running and if it's compatible or not. We're going to, again, we not only show you the problem, we give you a resolution. We give you a list of supported BIOSes, okay? So you don't have to go out to Dell's website, VMware's website, figure out what BIOS level you need to upgrade to. We provide that to you, saves you time and hours and effort. IO devices, same. You know, the green checks, everything's good. The red is what we need to pay attention to. Excuse me. On this particular server, I have a RAID controller that looks like it has issues, possibly not compatible, etc. What I was talking about earlier, we had some clients that asked for an override option. Example was they were running the newest hardware on a card from Hewlett-Packard, and VMware hadn't updated their HCL for that compatibility yet. So again, they partner with the vendor, they put together their HCL. We're using that HCL for our analysis, okay? So we're not in the negotiations or the documentation process, we're using what they document. So there are times where they haven't caught up yet, is the point. So we were asked to put an override in here. So if I know that I'm running this card in my environment with, you know, the firmware versions, et cetera, and it's not causing any issues, it's brand new, I can't find it on the HCL, you can come in here and click override. So it's not going to flag this anymore for that particular item in the environment. So that was just added this week, actually, in the latest release of our product. So something that, again, a customer asked for and we obliged and put it in the product because it's going to help them out. one of my favorite features of this section is the simulator. So not only are we showing you how your hardware stacks up against the current version that you're running, you can simulate an upgrade. Again, I have a mixed mode environment of 6.0, 6.5, and 6.7 hosts. We do support 7, which was released in March by VMware. If I enable the simulator, I select the version I want to simulate my hardware stack against. I can click the button, simulate. Because my data is cached and the HCL for 7 is built into my knowledge definitions, my lab environment isn't huge, granted, but my results are that quick, okay? So I can simulate that version upgrade, and now I'm showing results that my hardware, based on my hardware, if I was running 7, this is where my gaps would be, and here's where I need to pay attention. So perfect for an upgrade simulation. Okay, you're running 6.5, you're wanting to in your business upgrade to 7. Go do a hardware check first, see where you have issues. So when I clicked that, you could tell that my results changed, right? I had some green at the top and red. Now everything's red. So I have issues. So I need to go in and identify what those issues are. Again, this PowerEdge server, it's going to highlight the BIOS level again. It's going to show me a level of the BIOS versions that are compatible with 7. So essentially I can kick out a report and work from that report and start taking action in my environment to remediate these issues prior to my upgrade. You know, what is that going to do? That's going to prevent outages or issues post-upgrade. You know, anybody that's done enough VMware upgrades have experienced issues after the upgrade. There's always something. There's always something that was missed, a BIOS level, a firmware version, some card that's not compatible. We had a client that lost their entire storage array because the cards installed in the server weren't compatible. Took VMware 3 weeks to identify the issue. They were down for 3 weeks. Business loss, revenue loss, problems. So 3 weeks to identify. With Runecast, you can identify it in seconds. Again, you know, this is going to point out in here, I have this LSI Symbios logic controller that is not compatible with 7. So, you know, what I like about this is you can check the server, and if any of these parameters around the platform itself are being flagged, then you know you probably have to upgrade the server. But in this case, the server's okay, I just have to upgrade the BIOS, but I have some IO devices that are not compatible, so I just have to order new cards, okay? If that's the case. If it's not just a BIOS level firmware version, and in this case, this card is actually not compatible with 7, I just have to order a single card. I can see that my gigabit network connection IO devices are compatible. I can see, you know, some of my other hardware that's listed, QLogic cards, those are compatible. I just have this one logic controller that needs to be replaced, or RAID bus controller. Okay, so that's another feature that I really like about it, is you can identify real quickly. We all know about hardware refreshes. Hardware gets old over time. At a certain point, they're just not useful anymore. They're not going to be compatible with anything that's latest and greatest. This will pinpoint that and show you. The last area in log analysis I will show, we do 2 things with your logs. By default, log analysis is not enabled when Runecast is installed. It's a very simple process via settings to go and configure your ESXi host servers and or your virtual machines to forward their logs to Runecast. We're not necessarily intended to be built as a general syslog collector. You can use Runecast as a syslog collector, but what we do with your logs is, 1, we will analyze your logs and check it against VMware's KB articles and see if anything in your logs are related to a KB article, and we'll illustrate it here. Again, listed by severity. We'll give you details, the KB number, the product it's affecting, how many objects in your environment have this same log related to this KB, and similar information and data, okay? And the only difference in here, we're not going to show you specific items because these are logs, but we will show you the objects that are identified in the details. So the log analysis section is the only reactive piece of our product. Everything else is proactive in nature, designed to catch things before they have problems. Logs, of course, are just logging issues that are currently happening. What I like to say as well is many times if you're seeing something in your logs, it's likely you'll have some level of correlation with a KB or best practice that has been identified as well. So always keep that in mind if you're running Runecast, that you could have some remediation steps that are already discovered and pointed out in a KB or best practice. The second thing we do with your logs is what we call the log inspector. So again, we're not pulling in all of your logs where we're going to pull in a log indicating, user XYZ logged in last Thursday at 4 p.m. Some of those types of things. What we're doing is we're sorting the logs, filtering them based on these 4 keywords that generally indicate there's an error in the log. And the intent behind this is to speed up troubleshooting for a sysadmin. You're having issues in the environment. You don't want to scour through thousands and thousands of pages of logs, try to identify what's going on. We try to filter that based on our high-level certified engineers that we have as our developers in our environment of what we feel is relevant in your troubleshooting effort. So things like failed to, unable to, SCSI command, NMP, those are the logs that we're going to illustrate and show you in here. Trying to, shine a light on the needle in a haystack, I guess is the best way to put it. We're going to show you a timestamp, just general log data. Okay, we're going to show you the host that's affected. We're going to show you the program that it's related to. Okay, I can click the magnifying lens and get a look at the affected programs, hostd, OSFSD, VM kernel, etc., and those types of things. We can give you some detailed information down below, but like I say, this is one of those things. Just pulling your logs in, we're trying to hone them in, speed up your troubleshooting effort. So with that being said, again, that's the nuts and bolts. That's what we're performing in the background. The main menu is that we have the dashboard, inventory view, all issues view. These are how we present all of this data and the findings to you at a high level and in the single pane of glass, if you will, depending on how you want to view the data. So the main dashboard is just that. I mean, we're going to show you configuration issues by severity. This is an entire environment that I've scanned and that I have targeted. We're going to show you the log issues that are recent, security compliance with the trending graph, see how you've been doing over time. Are you trending up or down? Percentage, obviously. Best practice adoption, KBs applicable. We're going to show you configuration issues by layer. If you just want to look at network compute management, we're going to give you tongue-twisted issue history. Okay, so this is going to store the last 30 scans. Okay, so we're going to give you a date range, and you can highlight and hover over and see how you've been trending over time. Say you're running Runecast, you're seeing issues, you're going out doing remediation effort. Obviously, you want to see this trending down, and you just want to validate and verify that your work is being successful. We're going to give you a list of hosts with most issues. Those, major violators in the environment that need the attention, the most attention quickest. We're going to show you those. And the My Systems down below, these are the management systems in the environment I'm targeting. So I have multiple vCenter servers. I have a Horizon Connection Manager. As mentioned, we do support vSphere Horizon. RC Playground, this is my AWS instance. And I'll get to AWS here in a moment. So with that being said, that's the dashboard. We also gave you an inventory view, which is a hierarchy tree of your environment. If you see this just to the right of each object, the red numbers indicate the issues identified for the object just to the left. The numbers in parentheses indicate the number of issues identified within the hierarchy of that object. So this is a vCenter server. I have 147 issues just on the vCenter server. I have 2,500 issues within my hierarchy. So I can drill down, I can look at my NSX manager, drill down and to see what has been identified within it. If I want to look at hosts, I can dive down into my host infrastructure and see, as an example, I have all of these issues identified on these individual host servers. If I highlight one or click one, the details will pull up in a screen to the right. Again, I have the export and reporting function here, and I can create a report. And if I choose to start remediating from a report, I can do it that way. Last but not least, the all issues view. This is one that seems to be more popular with most of our clients, and it's just that it's a high level view of the all issues. We do again give you a trending analysis graph over time. You can sort via date range, daily, weekly. I can look at the last several days, several weeks. I can go back in time. I can highlight a certain date range and just look at that data. It's pretty flexible. I can look at the issues by object or the issues itself and look at how I'm trending over time. Within here, we also built in a compare with previous results. And what this does is it compares a single scan or your most recent scan to the previous scan that was performed. And it just shows you the changes between the two. So if I ran a scan in the environment, I went out and did a bunch of remediation steps, fixed a bunch of things, I can do a post scan and show the difference and what has changed, okay, between the two. Or I can identify any new issues that have crept up in the environment since my last scan. So that's really what the compare with previous results does for us. Pretty nice feature.
So yeah, we're coming short on time. Wade,
yeah, you bet.
But this has been awesome. I'm excited, and I guess I'm going to ask kind of a seed question here. Well, two. So one, are you ever 100%? So have you ever had a customer be at 100%? And is there such a thing as being 100%? You don't have any issues in your environment.
We have had people that have ran the product. They've gone out, they've done the due diligence and the remediation steps, and they have become 100% compliant. So absolutely, it is possible. It's more likely for smaller environments that are not as dynamic, running multiple versions, different flavors of hardware, and those types of things. But again, this is a constant check. This is going to be scheduled to run hourly. Most people run it on a daily basis. There isn't a lot of IO intensive activity that's happening. There are no agents installed, so it's light on the network. It caches data and information. So you can run it every single day. You can set a time of when you want it to run. Those types of things. You can alert yourself when the scan completes. You can get an email of a report sent to you, those types of things. So to answer your question, yeah, people can be and have been 100% compliant.
All right, cool. And then I got one more, and then I got actually a decent question that will lead me into kind of closing out. But any plans to support Azure on the horizon?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, we're looking at adding different cloud providers. Azure is one and will likely be the next one. Okay. It's on our roadmap. Google also is being kicked around, so we might end up having support for it as well.
Well, you got data so that from the today's to show that Microsoft is pretty heavily considered.
And other hypervisors as well. Hyper-V is on our roadmap. We're going to look at supporting Hyper-V as well. So I saw a lot of people responding with Hyper-V in their environments.
So good question from the audience. Can you just kind of highlight cost? Like how is this priced? And then on the screen, you'll see, definitely encourage you all to go and fill out the registration form to create an account. I put the link in the chat window. I don't know how fast, Paul can create it, but maybe create a promo code called XenTegra, but, no big deal. But yeah, definitely encourage people to go register and check this product out. It's worth the time and the effort. I'm going to highlight something that we're doing with Runecast as well in a second. So yeah, if you want to take us into cost, and then I'll take over and take us to the end.
Yeah, definitely. So from a cost perspective, the licensing model is very, very simple. One physical CPU is one license of Runecast Analyzer. Costs, I've sold a lot of technology in the past. I used to work for a reseller, and we have a varying price list. It depends on how many CPUs you have. We have different price breaks. So I don't want to pinpoint a single cost, but the return on investment is often clear. And if you're interested, then speak to your rep at XenTegra. Just to go back quickly to the screen that you just showed then to sign up for a trial. There's a screen for company name, so you need to input your company name. If you just put your company name, then in brackets, via XenTegra or from XenTegra or whatever, that will come through to me, and I'll know that you came from this webinar.
Cool. All right. Any final questions? Please put them in the Q&A. If we can't get to them, we'll follow up with you. But just a quick, who is XenTegra? How are we working together with Runecast? XenTegra is a reseller, but not only a reseller, but we have a great bench of consultants that can come in and help you with your VMware environments, as well as your end user compute environments and cloud environments. And then finally, we can be a trusted advisor. But the great thing about working with a partner, as we all know, is the ability to have one vendor that can help you with a solution, not just a product. So definitely not looking to replace your current partners, but hey, if you're in the market for a new partner, definitely reach out, and we will be more than willing to help out and try to get you back on track. But that said, what are we doing at Runecast? Well, we're actually doing free assessments where we include Runecast in the fold. So if you have a VMware environment and you want us to come help you get this up and running, Randy, one of our great sales engineers, is the guy that's leading the charge on this. We will do a free micro assessment of your VMware environment and help you get Runecast up and running in a demo capacity. So that said, if you're interested, keep an eye on your email. We'll be doing a follow-up, and that will be a great way to get not only understand how XenTegra works, but also get the demo up and running, and you guys can see it firsthand how it works, and we actually will put together a nice SWOT analysis for you based on the data we find. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And then finally, I always ask the question, are you hiring? If you are, definitely reach out. We have a great staffing division, and what makes us unique and why we decided to go into this area is because we have a great network of people, and yours truly sometimes gets to interview those people. So not only are you going to get great candidates, but you're going to get good vetted candidates. So definitely reach out if you have any staffing needs. And then finally, calls to action. So hey, definitely go and register and try this product out. It is definitely worth taking a look, especially if you're a huge VMware shop, which a lot of us are. All right, I got my ESX servers running over next to me. I'm a big vSphere. I do all my demos there, etc. So again, go try it out. If you want help quote it out, we can quote it out. And if you want a deeper demo and or figure out how this works, give us a call. We're gonna come in and help you get it running. We've all been trained on the product, and we got a couple champions actually internally that love this product. All right, so final call for questions. Again, if you if we didn't answer your question today, or you got a question that's burning you post event, just reply to the emails. You'll either end up in my inbox or Samantha's inbox, and we can get you the answer. So that said, I'm going to say thank you and put our contact information up one last time. And Paul or Wade, any final thoughts or any closing thoughts before we jump off today?
I'd be interested to know who, having seen the demo, would take that $1 bet. I think it would be less. But no, thank you all very much for coming, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to some of you guys in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
I love the flow, and the product is awesome. Again, this was my first time seeing the product, so it was a treat for me as the host and also as a technology guy. So that said, I'm going to say definitely join us next week. We got a lot of great vendors coming up through the month of July and August. A lot of great topics. Webinar Wednesdays every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and we got some great Grubhub credit earning to do. So definitely join us next week. And as I always say, see you guys on the flip side, and hope to see you in future webinars.